not the way you look.
All right, good, thank you. My salvation, thank you,
How
Dana.
did you come to Bill's books?
So I found the ink truck in the SUNY at Albany library, and I spent a great deal of time with that. I avoided my responsibilities. 2005, 2006, something like that, four. And then these copies right here, I just stole from my parents. Yeah, so I stole those. And then I acquired some other books through used bookstores, but it was really more of maybe a natural impulse to pick the book up initially, or the curiosity. These books sitting in the house stirred a curiosity, and there's also I think it's a Leo Tantillo painting of William Kennedy's Albany. Is that correct?
Said it again?
Len Tantillo. There's a painting he did, and I think it's called William Kennedy's Albany. Is that right?
Len Tantillo did?
Yeah. Was it Len?
No, maybe Jenny Cortez, but it wasn't Len Tantillo.
No, you mean the poster?
There's
It's a poster.
The poster that with the picture of City Hall and the baseball team, and that's Leg Ziman is on the cover. Yeah, no, that was a poster done for. You know, it came to be. SUNY was going to teach a course in my novels. You know, the 3 novels that were published, the 4 novels that were published at that time, and they were going to have a kind of a celebratory day or 2 devoted to it. And suddenly, when they started to put it together, the city of Albany wanted to get into the picture, and so they joined forces, and the university and the city and a lot of other people put together something called William Kennedy's Albany, and that poster was the advertiser for it, and it was a wonderful poster. It won some kind of a prize. I have the poster home, the original, and it was very popular because it evoked all the books, but it evoked Leg Ziman and Dan O'Connell, and great historical figures in Albany, and City Hall, and Albany senators, and Louis' pool room, and then the event took place from Thursday to Sunday, and it was 4 days and 4 nights of parties and lectures, and it never stopped. And the egg was full. 900 people came out to hear my speech, and I was amazed. And then on Sunday, like 25,000 people came out to Washington Park and partied in costume. People and I sang in the middle of the show.
It was a party, huh?
The master of ceremonies was an old classmate of mine from grammar school, Jack Dugan, your old DJ, JD, and he also was a mailman. And we played baseball together and a lot of other stuff, and Jack was there. It was a great fun time. It was an unbelievable event, and at that time, Albany suddenly was finding itself on a lot of maps that it hadn't been on before, and it was very peculiar. Anyway, I found this thing. I was looking in the wrong chapter. And so this is a scene where Helen and Francis go over to the Gilded Cage because Oscar is there, and they're going to sing. And then finally somebody asks Helen to sing, and she says, "Okay, I'll sing." I mean, do you know? Does your friend know? He's me pal or my man. You hear that, Joe? I hear, said Joe, the piano man, and he played a few bars of the chorus of He's Me Pal, as Helen smiled and stood and walked to the stage with an aplomb and grace befitting her re-entry into the world of music. The world she should have never left, and oh, why did you ever leave it, Helen? She climbed the 3 steps to the platform, drawn upward by the familiar chords that now seemed to her to have always evoked joy. Chords not from this one song, but from an era of songs, 30, 40 songs of 30, 40 years of songs that celebrated the splendors of love and loyalty and friendship and family and country and the natural world. Frivolous Sal was a wild sort of devil, but wasn't she dead on the level too? Mary was a great pal, heaven sent on Christmas morning, and love lingers on for her. The new mown hay, the silvery moon, the home fires burning, these were sanctuaries of Helen's spirit, songs whose like she had sung from her earliest days, songs that endured for her as long as the classics she had committed to memory so indelibly in her youth, for they spoke to her not abstractly of the aesthetic peaks of the art she had once hoped to master, but directly, simply, about the everyday currency of the heart and soul. The pale moon will shine on the twining of our hearts. My heart is stolen, lover dear, so please don't let us part. Oh, love, sweet love, oh, burning love, the songs told her. You are mine, I am yours, forever and a day. You spoiled the girl I used to be, my hope has gone away. Send me away with a smile, but remember, you're turning off the sunshine of my life. Love. So that was Helen's synthesis of Tin Pan Alley, whose tunes she used to play in a piano store and in a 10-cent store where you could buy sheet music in the days before the phonograph.
Excuse me, other than your own work, do you have a favorite Albany historic novel? Evocative? Other than your own work, do you have a favorite?
Of my own work?
Other.
Oh, other work.
Yeah,
Well,
historical novel,
I like
favorite?
Herman Melville a lot.
No, favorite.
Melville used to live on Clinton Square, and the house is still there and occupied by a man who used to be my accountant.
I have a question. It deals with the convergence of music and fiction, particularly historical fiction. To me, one of the most prominent characteristics of your work, Mr. Kennedy, is its historical function. So I wonder if either of you see music as being able to perform a similar or the same historical function, whether it be through the narrative quality of lyrics or whether it be through a style or genre serving as a landmark for a particular period.
I would say on the musical front, probably the style would be the most obvious reference to a time period or looking back in time. I mean, you can tell the difference between the tune that we played by Fats Waller, Ain't Misbehavin', and if you take a look at the structure, just listen to the way that tune is structured, and then if you listen to maybe what's on the radio today, if you just turn it on, you'll get two very distinct periods of time. I mean, you even have categories like classic rock, which refer back to a few decades ago. So I'd say the easiest way to, or the easiest or obvious signifier for the music is the structure of the music. I mean, the lyrics, you can do anything. Like you can go into the future, you can go into science fiction, you can do all that kind of stuff because it's the written word and it's the imagination. But the style of or the structure of the music, even down to what instruments you choose, is what looks back at a particular era, I would say.
Well, it seems to me that the music rises out of its own history. I mean, the history that it's making, whether it's slave music that we alone have in the world from the 1850s, 1830s, 40s on until the rising of the jazz era, which was a culmination of that, and out of that music comes a sense of the time and the life that was lived in it. And that's what I was thinking here tonight, you know, when I was listening here to this music that was coming out of my novels. And I'm just thinking back of the music that I had received and put into the novels. And the music that I received was the jazz era, and I carry that back in Shango's Beads back into slavery and Cuban slavery, and Cuban music is another thing that the history of Cuba can be tracked with the music of the slave era, and back into the rumba in the 20s and the 30s, and how it transformed American music and dancing in the whole world, and on. It's on and on and on it goes. But it's a cyclical event that's it's as natural as music that comes out of the as the books that come out of history. The music comes out of the history as well. I have a thing that I would like to read after a while, but not now, but which will sort of illuminate what I mean when I think about, it's a section of Helen talking about music and when she was, when she's dying, and what happens to her. Anyway, I'll do that, you know, I'll shut up.
There's no better way to shut up the crowd than to stop talking.
There must be some other question. Yes, sir.
As an author who writes very heavily about the city where you live, is there anything that you've written that you feel is too personal, too recognizable to the people around you that you haven't been able to put that out? I know that you tend to do a lot of historical stuff.
Oh, there's a lot.
Anything that's
Yeah.
more of a reflection of the people that you know that you don't think
Yeah, a lot of stories I wouldn't dare tell. Wind up in the river.
You smile, but I sense some seriousness there.
Yeah. But there's I tend to use almost everything that I can possibly use, the worst and the best. But I've found ways, more or less, to disguise it. And I, you know, when I started out writing, I was afraid I was going to get sued for libel if I used somebody's name wrong, or you know, I even changed the name of the city. It was stupid, but I got over that, and I didn't get over being stupid, but I got over that stupid book. And anyway, I have a way of transforming it. You know, I'm not recording history anyway. I'm not trying to tell. When I was writing Old Albany, that was journalistic, and that was historical, and I was as accurate as I could possibly be. And I made a few mistakes, but I corrected them when the first edition came out, and then there's probably still some mistakes. But rather than being upset by having their names used, people were upset when I didn't use their names. How come you left out my grandfather? So anyway, you want to play a tune? I'd love to.
Just any tune?
I'd love a tune.
Just any old tune?
Yeah. You know Sean?